Our American born and our dying American.
Welcome to our group.
Welcome to Defender 7. If Defender 7 has so much knowledge, and this ought to show it right here.
Do you or someone you know suffer from depression? If so, please contact the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-8255.
And hello, everybody out there. Glad you all are joining in. Great day, great night tonight. Great weather here in South Carolina. Hope everyone's doing well. Before we get on with the show tonight, I have a disclaimer to read for those of you new just tuning in. The views and opinions expressed on Defender 7 radio show and Facebook page are those of the callers and or authors and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the Defenders 7. And that being said, again, welcome everybody. Those of you that are new, we do have a website. If you type in all lowercase letters, www.defenders, Roman numeral V as in Victor, with 2 small i's.com. And on our website, you will find that we have a store and we have a donate button. All proceeds, 100% from sales from our store, and any donations we bring in go back to our communities throughout all 50 states in a time of need. So please, by all means, purchase something or click that donate button. Every bit helps. Help us to help you and our communities. And it's a tax write-off. Now we can also be we can be reached on our Facebook national page by typing in the search box all capital letters Defenders 7. That's Defenders, Roman numeral V as in Victor, with 2 large I's. Before you click on that join button, just know we expect all of our members and our future members to participate through all that we do throughout all of Defender 7 group. Training, disaster relief training, survival training, you name it. If you get in and you feel that's not what you're able to do or want to do, you can always leave and there will be no hard feelings. We're also on MeWe. If you click on organizations and scroll down, Defender 7, Humanitarian, American Patriot Group. We also have a YouTube channel, which was created by your host, our Colonel, Kimberly PURVIS. So go on there and click on that subscribe button. Get our numbers up for us. And also for our radio shows, share them on all platforms. Help us so that we can turn around and help you. Please. Now for tonight and all the shows that we do here on Blog Talk Radio, we enjoy it when you call in with your opinions, thoughts, input, everything. And that number to call, area code 914-205-5773. Again, number to call to participate, area code 914-205-5773. Come on in and chat with us. Or listen. It's just like having a three-way conversation on the phone. You don't even know you're on the radio if that's what scares you. We're not here to scare anybody. Come in with your opinions and your thoughts on the topics that we cover. And I'm going to turn the microphone over to your host, our Colonel, Kimberly PURVIS. Good evening, dear.
Good evening. Oh, I am
How
so
are
trying
you?
to get over a migraine.
Sorry to hear that. I hear you.
Down. I don't like taking something for a headache every time I get one. Because you need to get your body used to working shit out on its own. So I'll drink water, and then sometimes I'll just go lay down and take a nap. But when you wake up and you still have one, that bitch ain't going nowhere.
Right.
So I finally broke down and took something for it, my migraine medicine. So hopefully it'll be gone soon. But
I hear you.
I have to end the show. I'm not going to end the show. I mean, I just have to be 15 minutes early to go pick up Pat.
Yeah. Just keep an eye on the time. If I don't catch it.
That way we can leave. You know how we usually the last 15 minutes to BS around anyway. So
Yeah.
Yeah. So I totally forgot. It's because we did our freaking grocery order, and I wasn't waiting until 9 o'clock tonight to get the damn groceries. So we had to do it, and I had to take them to work. And I'm like, oh no, I hate driving at night, but
Right.
sucks. But gotta do it. I believe we when we covered all the histories of America, I believe we left off with the Korean War.
Yes.
We did? Okay. So
Yes.
yeah, there's quite a bit to it. And I know there should still be Korean veterans around, right?
Yeah, because my dad was, and he just passed away in January, so.
Okay. And well, back in the day, I'd say about probably 15 years ago, when I worked in one of the nursing homes, we had a lot of Korean War veterans, and they always told me that for some reason that the Korean War is like a forgotten war.
Yeah.
They just go from World War I, II, and all the other ones, and they go right over to Vietnam. I'm like, okay.
Right. Yeah, because
actually
the Korean War ran into the Vietnam War. Ran over into Vietnam. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Or vice versa, Vietnam into Korea, something like that.
No, because Korea began June 25th, 1950, and ended July 27th, 1953.
Right. Then it was the original way I just said, because my dad served in both.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know my one grandfather served in the First World War, the other one served in the Second, and I don't think I had anybody in the Korean, but my dad was in Vietnam. No, my cousin Jack, he was also in Vietnam.
Right.
So, but other than that, I think my uncle was in, but he was too young for Vietnam, too old. He already gotten out by there was nothing after Vietnam, really. I mean, nothing major, I should say, that, you know. But anyway, I'm going to start. Now, when you, the History Channel is a good place to get all, pretty much anything. Also, Encyclopedia Britannica and things like that. I don't care. I'm using Wikipedia right now, but because it's got a lot. But then I also have another website to kind of go coincide. But the other one, it's just a timeline. It doesn't have any freaking information. Just little blurbs. So
right.
I really don't care for Wikipedia just because it's not, as they call it, peer reviewed, and even though they've got all the resources on it, but people can change it if they feel the need to. But anyway, the Korean War, Korea is divided between North Korea and South Korea, that we all know. And, crap, I got to read this between Korean and English. Good Lord. So the Korean War, the North Korea had China's support and the Soviet Union. And South Korea had the support of the UN, but mostly from the United States. And like I said, it started on June 25th, 1950, when North Korea invaded South Korea after the clashes along the border and the insurrections. And it unofficially ended on July 27th, 1953, in an armistice. Is that like an agreement? Or, what the hell? Let me see. Yeah, it's an agreement. It's an armistice that was brought out a complete cessation of hostilities of the Korean War, and it was signed by U.S. Lieutenant General William Harrison, Jr., representing the United Nations Command. And the North Korea... Oh, damn it. I hate these little things. You move the thing and it gets rid of it. And North Korean General Nam II, representing the Korean Army. So after the surrender of Japan at the end of World War II on August the 15th in 1945, Korea was divided at the 38th parallel into two zones of occupation. So the Soviets administered the northern half, and the Americans administered the southern half. So in 1948, as a result of the Cold War tensions, the occupation zones became two sovereign states, a socialist state, which was established in the north under the totalitarian leadership of Kim Sung, and the capitalist state in the south under the authoritarian leadership of Syngman Rhee. Now, how the hell, correct me if I'm wrong, okay, capitalist would be, well, capitalism, right, is what we are, right?
Yeah.
But authoritarian is, but isn't that more like dictator, authoritarian?
That I don't know.
I mean, it's got the little, you know how it's the words are blue, you click it and it shows what it is, but it doesn't say, hold on. Well, they called it the First Republic of Korea. That was South Korea. But if you think about it, authoritarian means like a tyrannical government, unless
right.
they change the name of what it actually means. Because in May of 1948, they had their first general election, and the National Assembly in Seoul made South Korea's first constitution. and they established a democratic presidential system of government. I think they might have used, like I said, I think they might have used no, they didn't. Never mind. Okay, so I was right. The first republic was characterized by Rhee's authoritarianism and corruption, and that limited economic development and strong anti-communism, and by the late 1950s, growing political instability. I was right. That's what it is. So the first, capitalist state. The first president was pretty much a tyrant. So anyway, both governments of the two new. My mouth is talking faster than my brain right now. Sorry. I hate when that happens. Both governments of the two new Korean states claim to be the sole legitimate government of all Korea, and neither accepted the border as permanent. Well, ain't that some shit? So North Korea, actually it's called Korean People's Army, the KPA, the border and drove into South Korea on June 25th of 1950. And the UN Security Council denounced the North Korean move as an invasion and authorized the formation of the United Nations Command. And that's when all of the countries went in to help to get rid of the North Koreans. The Soviet Union was boycotting the UN for recognizing Taiwan as China. Good God, this has been going on that long. And China was not recognized by the UN, so neither could support the People's Republic of Korea. 21 countries of the United States, of the United Nations, eventually contributed to the UN force, with the United States providing around 90% of military personnel. After the first 2 months of war, the South Korean Army and American forces hastily dispatched to Korea were on the point of defeat, retreating to a small area behind a defensive known as the is it Pusan perimeter, they call it? In September of 1950. Okay. Because I know there's Busan and Pusan. I was wondering if they just changed it for all the movies, like The Train to Busan. And they mentioned the same thing. I was just wondering if they just changed the P to a B for the movie. In September of 1950, a risky amphibious UN counteroffensive was launched at, is it Incheon?
Incheon.
I'm pronouncing that right. Incheon? Okay. Cutting off the KPA troops and supply lines in South Korea. Those who escaped envelopment and capture were forced back to the north, and UN forces invaded North Korea in October of 1950 and moved rapidly towards the Yalu River that borders with China. But on October 19th, 1950, Chinese forces of the People's Voluntary Army crossed the Yalu and entered the war. UN retreated from North Korea after the first phase offensive and the second phase offensive. Then Chinese forces were in South Korea by late December. In these and subsequent battles, Seoul was captured 4 times, and communist forces were pushed back to positions around the 38th parallel, close to where the war had started. After this, the front stabilized, and the last 2 years war of attrition. And the war in the air, however, was never a stalemate. North Korea was subject to massive U.S. bombing campaigns. Jet fighters confronted each other in air-to-air combat. And for the first time in history, the Soviet pilots covertly flew in defense of their communist allies. And the fighting ended on July 27, 1953. when the Korean Armistice Agreement was signed. And the agreement created the Korean Demilitarized Zone, or the DMZ, to separate North and South Korea. Is that where Trump, never mind, or is that the right, where he went in? Was that North Korea that he went into?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just trying to remember who's who. Xi Jinping is China and Kim Jong-un is North Korea, right?
Right.
Okay. There's so many of them, I'm losing track. So that place where Trump walked over, where Trump walked over, was that, okay, is there like, where they say the DMZ, is that just like a little piece of land where no military could be or nobody could be? And then he was
I believe it's like a neutral zone.
Okay. No, that's what I'm saying. Was when Trump walked over.
Right. Like if you get too close to either side, they will fire at you.
Oh, okay. So the line that Trump crossed was actually into North Korea.
Right.
Okay, that's what I was thinking. Okay. Okay, so they agreed to work toward a treaty to formally end the Korean War. The Korean War was among the most destructive conflicts in the modern era. Approximately 3 million war fatalities and a larger proportional civilian death toll than World War II or the Vietnam War. Holy shit, that's a lot. Virtually all of Korea's major cities were destroyed, and thousands of massacres were done by both sides, including the mass killings of tens of thousands of suspected communists by the South Korean government, and the torture and starvation of prisoners of war by the North Koreans. And North Korea became among the most heavily bombed countries in history. Well, damn. I mean, I knew North Koreans were bad on their POWs anyway. I didn't realize. And see, that's what people don't understand. What's it called? How you have to treat your POWs. What's that damn thing? What's it called? The way you have to treat prisoners.
Geneva Convention.
Okay. I mean, the way, and people want to complain about how America treats prisoners. You've got to be kidding. Because if you take a hard look at how China, North Korea, all of these countries treat POWs, so even the Philippines, in their regular prisons, how they treat prisoners it's amazing how they actually do that.
Right.
I watched this movie about what the hell was it? I'm trying to think it was in the Philippines or where it was. It was one of those over there in Asia, one of those countries, and it was a movie about Christianity and how it got started over there. And a woman, she was going around and they had the little churches, in the homes, and they make copies of sections of the Bible. Well, they arrested her. And people want to complain about our jails. You have individual beds. In the prisons over there, they actually have one platform bed, and you sleep right next to the person next to you. Literally, you sleep on your side, and they will cram 50 women onto one bed. That probably shouldn't even sleep 10 people, or maybe 15 or 20 at the most. I mean, it's absolute brutal how they treat their prisoners. So maybe people should stop complaining when you screw up here in America. I mean, it's let's see. So Imperial Japanese rule. I don't even know what the hell this has to do with the Korean War. Imperial Japan destroyed the influence of China over Korea and the first Sino-Japanese War, ushering in the short-lived Korean Empire. So a decade later, after defeating Imperial Russia and the Russo-Japanese War, Japan made Korea its protectorate with its EULSA treaty in 1905. And then it annexed it with the Japan-Korea annexation treaty in 1910. So many Korean nationalists fled the country, and the Provisional Government of the Republic of Korea was founded in 1919. In nationalist China, it failed to achieve international recognition and failed to unite the nationalist groups, and then had fractious relationships with the U.S.-based funding president, Sigmund Rhee. That's why, because he ruled from 1919 to 1925 and beyond, and he was the communist or whatever tyrannical leader. That's why. So Korean communists led an internal and external warfare against the Japanese, and then in China, the nationalist National Revolutionary Army and the Communist People's Liberation Army helped organize Korean refugees against the Japanese military, which had also occupied parts of China. And the national-backed Koreans were led by Yim Pak-suk, fought in the Burma campaign from 1941 to 1945. So the communists that led Kim Sung, among others, fought the Japanese and in Korea and Manchuria. Yeah, okay, I don't even know what the hell that didn't even help the subject matter at all. I think there was a backstory of what happened before the Korean War. Yeah, I swear to God. Some of this, I'm telling you, this is why I hate reading on these foreign, like some of this, because they put in their language in with it, and it's like I can't even read it. I'm like, dude, I could read this 3 days before doing a show, and it's still gonna have the same problem. But hey, just bear with me, guys. At the Tehran Conference in November of 1943 and the Yalta Conference in 1945, the Soviet Union promised to join its allies in the Pacific War within 3 months of the victory in Europe. Germany officially surrendered on May 8th of 1945. Then Russia declared war on Japan and invaded Manchuria. Good God, they don't waste time. And they call America warmongers. And they invaded Manchuria on August 8th of 1945, 3 months later. And this was 3 days after the bombing of Hiroshima.
Hiroshima.
Hey, it's Hiroshima. You call it tomatoes, dude.
Yeah. Potato.
Huh?
Potato.
Exactly. Now, wait a minute. I thought when Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. So how far back was World War II of the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki? Because it looks like, did it end before the Korean War started? Because
I give up. Did it?
I give up too. I guess. Hold on, let me look. Because I was like, wait a minute. I thought there was a bigger gap in the wars. That's what I'm saying. Oops. Hold on a second. I had the timeline here, and it must be on. Well, you suck. No, I can't find it. Must be down here. Yep, there it is. Okay. So let's skip all the way down. Yada, yada, schmata. Maybe I should keep this timeline open so I'm not confused. Okay, World War I was 1917 to 1918. Good God, it was just 1 year? Huh. Okay, and then World War II, oh, I was right. It ended, it was from 1941 to 1945. So, they did. They went from one war into the next one. Okay, that's why I was confused. Did a little bit. So the night of August 10th in Washington, U.S. Colonels Dean Rusk and Charles Bonesteel III were assigned to divide Korea into the Soviet and U.S. occupation zone and proposed the 38th parallel as the dividing line. Cool. And this was incorporated into the U.S. General Order No. 1, which responded to the Japanese surrender on August the 15th. Let me look for more of the... okay, because this has the Chinese Civil War. This has all of them fighting. What I wanted to go over was the actual battles that took place. You know, I don't really... Okay, so the prelude to the war, by 1949, South Korea and U.S. military actions had reduced the active number of indigenous communist guerrillas in the South from 5,000 to 1,000. However, Kim Sung believed that widespread uprisings had weakened the South Korean military and that the North Korean invasion would be welcomed by much of the South Korean population. Wow. Kim began seeking Stalin's support for an invasion in March of 1949, traveling to Moscow to attempt to persuade him. Stalin initially did not think the time was right for a war in Korea. PLA forces were still embroiled in the Chinese Civil War, while the U.S. forces remained stationed in South Korea. And by spring of 1950, he believed that the strategic situation had changed, and the PLA forces under Mao Zedong had secured final victory in China. So U.S. forces had withdrawn from Korea, and hold on a second, and the Soviets had detonated their first nuclear bomb, breaking the U.S. atomic monopoly, as the U.S. had not directly intervened to stop the communist victory in China. So Stalin calculated that Soviets... hold on. I'm getting lost here. Sorry. So the Soviets had cracked the codes led by the U.S. to communicate with their embassy in Moscow. And reading these dispatches convinced Stalin that Korea did not have the importance to the U.S. that would warrant nuclear confrontation. Well, ain't that nice? So Stalin had begun a more aggressive strategy in Asia based on those developments, including promising economic and military aid to China through the Sino-Soviet Treaty of Friendship, Alliance, and Mutual Assistance. Wow. I got to do something else because this is not going over everything that, you know what I'm saying? It's not going through each of the, like all the other wars we went over. You know what I'm saying? It's not covering battles and all that crap. Let's see. Of course. Do you have any input into this Korean War?
Only that it happened a long time ago.
Yeah, 70 years ago. And I just found it. It was called the Forgotten War. No, I'm just looking to see if they have anything that that covers the whole, and I still can't find. I mean, I thought I did, but all that's doing is just going up over all of the BS information that I really don't care about. Let's see. Sorry, guys. I went over it, and I'm looking like, okay, cool. And then when I go over it, read it, it's like absolutely useless information. Sorry. I couldn't find the articles that I had when we were doing it to begin with. Let's see. So for hundreds of years, I'm just got to go with it. There's not going to have any battles that's listed. So I apologize. Maybe the next war I could come up with will actually have all that information. So for hundreds of years, Korea's been a battleground for competing nations and ideas. But the last century, possibly the darkest in the peninsula's history, has seen it divided never as before. Japan used its victory to annex Korea in 1910, having already installed a puppet leader. Sounds familiar.
Right.
Joe. History is rapidly repeating itself, even from other countries' history. It's like they have not figured this crap out yet. Emperor Sungjeon was the last united Korean leader and the last emperor in a dynasty stretching back 500 years. So apparently North and South Korea was one country at one point in time. So by the time he had died in 1926, the Japanese were completely in control and attempting to undermine Korea's unique cultural identity. The Korean language and customs were suppressed at that one point. Tokyo even tried to enforce a law stating that all second names should be Japanese. Oh, maybe that's why the Koreans are so. Their dialect. Who's the one that sounds like they're talking from the diaphragm? You know what I'm talking about? How all the different Asian cultures talk. One's high pitched. I can't remember if it's the Japanese or the Koreans who have that that deep where they talk. So that and other inequalities left an anti-Japanese feeling among Koreans, which lasts to this day. So when the Japanese Empire was dismantled at the end of World War II, Korea fell victim to the Cold War. It was divided into two spheres of influence along the 38th parallel. The Americans controlled the South line, and the Russians installed a communist regime in the north, later seceding influence to China. That explains why North Korea is just all jacked up. Between the Chinese, the Japanese, and Russia, I don't know. They have absolutely no what you call it. It just seems like they don't have their own shit. So in 1950, the North launched a surprise attack across the 38th parallel and quickly took most of the South. The United Nations then backed what it called a police action to repulse the advance of the Korean War, which would last for 3 years. I thought it lasted 4. Most troops on the UN side were American, but 90,000 British soldiers were involved in fighting the Chinese Red Army, and more than 1,000 were killed, many of them conscripts. So by the time the armistice was signed in 1953, 2.5 million people had died. And after the war, South Korea's economic prospered under a series of capitalist dictatorships. See, I was right. They just used the wrong word for what I was talking about. And the country eventually became a democracy. North Korea remains in an economic basket case and a police state which has been ruled by the same family for 3 generations. First, Kim the second son, and his son Kim Jong-2, and then now the grandson Kim Jong-un. Oh.
And Ding Dong Dick.
Ding Lama Lama Ding Dong.
Lama Lama Ding Dong.
The legacy of that dark century has left South Korea's security guaranteed by an American defense treaty, and North Korea tied to a military pact with China in the event of it being attacked. So let me see if there's anything else on that. So basically, I mean, North Korea ain't got their own shit. See, I thought, okay, this is my bad on this. I did not realize that North Korea was right up. It was a peninsula. I didn't know that, so call me stupid. Japan. Well, you see what I'm saying is because I'm looking at a map right now. Because China is attached to North Korea, and then South Korea, and then Japan is right below. And yes, I know it's ignorant of me to not know that, but I thought
no,
it was
but it does get confusing.
There's just so many damn islands
right
over there.
Yep.
Huh?
I said that much I could tell you.
But yeah, I'm sitting there looking at this little map, and it shows. And I'm like, wait a minute! I thought the damn freaking I wasn't realizing that. Where is it at? See, it has China, and then that long. It's just the way it looks because it's got its own little. It looks like Florida, but sideways. You know how the whole length of Florida is surrounded by the ocean?
Right.
And then the peninsula goes the other. Well, they're just turned sideways. So China, and then there's North Korea, and then the DMZ, and then there's the Yellow Sea on one side, the Sea of Japan, and I did not realize that Russia is right there pretty much at the very top of North Korea. Like the way over, like Maine. If you look at America's map, look at Maine. And then there's Russia's the same thing, and I didn't realize that because I don't live there. So, let's see. Let's look at here's some other thing that has absolutely nothing to do with the Korean War, but because this happened after. So the two Koreas have been at war for 70 years. Damn. And it does not seem that they're going to go anywhere close to a lasting peace. Kind of like Israel and the Gaza Strip there, the Palestinians. There's no, they're never going to be at peace, ever. So I'm going to go over some assassination and violent events that took place, which show this is the continuous battle between the two. The Blue House raid in a failure of mission on January 21st of 1968 to assassinate the newly elected South Korean president, Mr. Park Chung-hee, was left unharmed, but ironically, the team of 31 Korean People's Army soldiers who were sent to kill him were captured, or they were killed, or forced to flee South Korea. The Burma incident, yet another loss in the face of North Korea, happened on October 9th in 1983 in Rangoon, Burma. Now that's Myanmar. Oh, that's the one who just had the military coup in Myanmar because of their election, of all the election fraud. See, I remember something. Good Lord. When the North Korean troops were once again ordered to kill Chun Doo-hwan, the fifth president of South Korea. President Chun survived, but there were 21 casualties with 46 people injured. And the bomb in Korean air of November of 1987, a Korean air flight took off from Baghdad for Seoul, but it exploded over the Bay of Bengal. North Korea was alleged to have planted it. The flight had 115 people on board, leaving no survivors. And the summit of June 14th, 2000, in Pyongyang, North Korea, sorry if I butchered it, allowed the two Pyongyang or Pyongyang. Dude, I had an Asian professor, and we just called him Dr. N. But he wanted to butcher his name, so that's what he goes by, Dr. Yen. So the summit that was in North Korea, allowing the two Korean presidents to meet and even come to the agreement of reopening the border liaisons offices and become the cause of the reunion for families that had got divided due to the Korean War. Bombs, smiles, and sanctions. Well, shit. Let's smile about it. North Korea and the United States have exchanged sharp words for each other. President Trump called Kim Jong-un the Rocket Man, and Kim replied by saying Trump is ignorant. No, Trump's just a pompous ass. Still like him, but he is an ass. He knows how to get you with them mean tweets. But Trump has also warned North Korea of fire and fury if it doesn't cease nuclear ambitions. And however, the two adversaries have seen a cool down in relations since the Singapore summit in 2018, when the two leaders, followed by a failed summit in Vietnam, and then later on a visit to South Korea. And this is what we were talking about. Trump stepping into North Korea and meeting Kim. In between all of this, North Korea tested a nuclear bomb, a claimed hydrogen bomb. I remember that. That's what they were talking about. Numerous short-range and mid-range ballistic missiles, and even claiming that the missiles can now deliver nuclear payloads. Holy crap. They're saying they've got missiles now that could be launched from North Korea and hit mainland United States. I wonder if that's true. You think so? Or do you think they're blowing smoke up our ass?
I think they're blowing smoke up our ass.
Because that's a big-ass missile that you have to have. But by the time they got here, we would be able to shoot it down anyway before it even hit us. Well, then again, wait a minute. It'd have to go the other way and come up the side of California. So that's a possibility. Instead of it coming from the east, it would come from the west. Technically, right? Yeah. Because if it comes around, it is a shorter distance. So it's a possibility of it hitting mainland, like California, and maybe, was it California, blah, 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 Colorado. So I would say no farther than Colorado, if they could even do it. But hey, that's just me. I don't know shit about missiles. So I just know J-damn bombs are huge, and we got some big ones. That's all I know. I don't know anything about missiles, really. So when the Japanese Empire was defeated at the end of World War II, Korea, well, we know it's all victim to the Cold War. Let's see. I don't want to repeat all this shit. Let's see. So, on the 25th of June, 1950. Sorry if I'm merging all of this information, but this seems to be like it's a better information. It's kind of like it's going all over the place, so I apologize. On the 25th of June, 1950, Kim Sung had ordered the troops to invade South Korea, which was under the leadership of Syngman Rhee, throughout the 38th parallel, or the DMZ, in an attempt to reunite the two countries. The 3-year conflict, which had resulted in the victory of South Korea, had killed an estimated 2 million people and the villages, and it pretty much destroyed all of the cities in all of Korea. So the Korean War, however, did not end in peace for both of the countries. It's kind of like a truce. And I don't know if that's how Vietnam War ended, or was that kind of like a stalemate? Like, just forget it. Too many people have died, and that's it. I don't know if you consider it the same thing. But there's no alliance between North and South Korea. So they're, like I said, they're constantly fighting, and they just don't want to give it up. But there is some kind of peace by now between the two Koreas, but it's not completely a peace treaty. Depends on what kind of day they're having. So how did the Korean War impact the world? And I'm actually going to look up something else to go with this, because I want to find out information, because it's not covering it. So we're going to go, how many, died in the Korean War? Here we go. We got some statistics to go with it. You know, Bobby, you could jump in anytime you feel like it.
Jump.
Okay. Wow, this is a pretty good thing too. So, South Korea lost almost 230,000 troops. About 700,000 were wounded. 44,000 are MIA. They don't know if there was any captured. So about 100,000 troops for South Korea. The United States had about 55,000 were killed. 32,000 were killed in action. They had about 104,000 that were wounded, and almost a little over 8,000 are missing in action, and almost 4,000 are POWs. And we had about 170,000 troops total. Good God. There's a lot of countries that was in the Korean War. I did not know that. See, the United Kingdom only sent a little over 5,000 troops. Turkey sent almost 4,000. Australia, maybe 2,000. Canada sent almost 1,500. France sent a little over 1,000. Thailand sent 913. Greece sent 715. Hold on a second. 543. Of those 700 troops that was sent by Greece, 500 of them were injured. That's sad. The Netherlands sent 700, and I can't see these other 3 countries because it's covered up by an ad. South Africa sent 42 troops. Woo! That's not a whole lot. But yeah, I did not know that it claimed, and that was just for South Korea side. That's not counting North Korea. Let's see. Oh, so here's I did not know this, Bobby, that the Korean War almost started a third world war. I guess by what happened. So that's only military casualties of what I was saying. That's not even the number of the North Korean military or the South Korean civilians. And that's in the millions. So I think between this and the Vietnam War, they kind of learned how to not kill the civilians and just strictly go for military targets. And that's a possibility of why it almost started World War III, because millions upon millions of civilians were killed in almost every city. So that's a possibility of why it almost started, World War III. So all of the United Nations involved in combat in the Korean War, all but Turkey was neutral, and now Turkey is Turkey used to be part of the Warsaw Pact, so I don't know when they got out of that. I didn't even know when in the world they thought about being part of NATO. Colombia never sent anybody, but they are part of the UN, and they were significant participants in World War II, which had ended just less than 5 years before the Korean War. So that's probably why a lot of countries did not send anybody, because of, being so close to World War II. Also, all of the UN nations involved in the Korean War had been involved in other wars and conflict in the short period of time between the end of World War II. So, yeah, that's why all of those other countries only sent. I mean, look how big America is compared to Taiwan and all of these other countries. I mean, they're not very big. The United Kingdom has been drawn into combat in several areas in 1945 and 46, including the early stages of the Greek Civil War and the early stages of the Indochina War with Indonesia War of Independence. Good God. So Britain is in pretty much all of the wars. They don't care. They just send their guy. So at the same time, they were fighting in Korea, which includes a war in Palestine, the Malayan emergency, which is in 1948-1960, a brief war with Egypt, and the start of the Mau Mau insurgency in Kenya. So, yeah, the UK, they have no qualms about sending their guys. They don't care. So people really have no business saying that the United States is, how would they call it, Bobby, when the U.S. gets involved with a bunch of people's conflicts. Crap. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
I can't think of what it's called, but apparently not, because England or the UK has been involved in so many different wars on different levels within 10, 15 years. So it's not the United States. It really is the UK. France also had engaged in several conflicts between World War II and Korea. The French Wars, including the rebellion of the French colony of Syria, crushing a rebellion in the French colony of Madagascar, and the most significant French war of the decade after World War II, the major conflict in French Indochina, in which France lost a war to the communist Vietnamese forces allied to the Soviet Union and communist China. So people need to get a grip. No. So North Korea had over 900,000 troops, right? China sent over 900,000 troops. 14,000 of them defected to North Korea. And the Soviet Union sent a whopping 299. So they were not an official participant in the Korean War, but they had over 72,000 military personnel in North Korea and hundreds of Soviet Air Force pilots. See, the little bastards. Can't trust Russia. They had Air Force pilots secretly flew combat missions against UN forces. So the Soviet pilots flew in planes with North Korean or Chinese markings, and the first two were forbidden to speak in Russian on their radios. Sneaky little bastards. Eventually, this directive was changed, and the American and other UN forces would clearly hear the enemy pilots speak other. So I didn't know all this. This is pretty cool. Where'd it go? So while the U.S. military and government knew the Soviets were intervening in combat with Korea, the decision was made to keep it a secret from the public. According to a book written by former Soviet officer titled Soviet Casualties and Combat Losses in the 20th Century, they lost all their men that they sent over there to fight. All 300 men. They lost them all. See, that's what you get for being a sneaky bastard. They lost 335 Soviet piloted planes. See what happens? It doesn't pay to be a sneaky bastard. Because shit will come back. You're putting your 2 cents. My dog's putting 2 cents in. Sorry, guys.
They're agreeing with you.
Yeah, he's putting his 2 cents in. Hold on. Okay, I got 45 more minutes, so I'm going to see what else we can cover about it. We'll just keep going over this generalized stuff that happened. I'm going to try not to repeat myself, which I know I've just repeated myself, but hey, get over it. So let's see. So in the years between, also a lot happened between World War II and the Korean War. So I didn't realize that. And this is why we like to do these shows. One, if any, I'll say, I don't know how many kids are listening, teenagers or whatever, or young adults. This is the importance of knowing history, because I'm going to be 49, 50 next week, and I didn't even know this. And, you know, and I know in schools today they don't want to teach a lot of these military wars because it affects them psychologically and they get butthurt. So this is why it's important to know about military history so you don't repeat yourself, which people cannot stop doing. It's like the definition of insanity, just repeating itself over and over. What is it? Hitting your head on the wall over and over again and expecting a different result. That's the definition of insanity, which happens to be every political leader right now. It's just, you got to change. And, well, to you. If you look at American history of all the wars we've had, right, from even, I'm talking beyond Revolutionary War to today's combat, right? Everything's changed in the way America fights in battles. You know, lining up like in the Revolutionary War, they lined up like gentlemen. And no. That's not the way to fight because too many people die. So that's why they went to the guerrilla tactics and everything else, and they changed the way they do it. That's the way it's supposed to be done. But the problem is, let me try to think. There's too many pig-headed leaders, I swear, that it's either their way or the highway, and that's what causes too many problems. So China endured a continuation of the bloody civil war between the nationalist government of Chiang Kai-shek of the communist forces led by Mao Zedong. Good God. I'm not moving over there. I will never go visit just because I don't want to offend anybody by butchering their name. And after the surrender of Japan, so from 1945 to 1949, the Chinese Civil War was waged with the communists taking over mainland China and the nationalists retreating to the island of Formosa, better known today as Taiwan. I did not know that. Okay. Was China not communist many moons ago?
No, it wasn't. It had an emperor.
Yeah, but that was the emperor. Oh, the emperor wasn't communist?
No, he was an emperor. It was a monarchy. They were a monarchy. There's some really good stories that tell how about the fall of the monarchy and what happened. I'm trying to think of the not Empire of the Sun. That's one about World War II with the Japanese camps. There's another one. I'll have to look it up. It's a really
That's
really
what
good
I'm doing
movie.
now. I'm actually looking it up now.
Yeah, but yeah, no, they were an empire. They had an emperor. And I think it's The Last Emperor of China. Maybe it was called. Excellent movie.
Oh, okay. Let's see. Yeah, well, it says China's Communist Party has ruled the country for more than 60 years, from founding of the People's Republic of China in 1949.
Right. It happened after World War II.
Okay, so before that, they were not.
No, it was an empire.
It's funny how they call it. It's funny how they call it the People's Republic of China. China, when a republic is technically what we are.
Well, the thing is, it didn't. When the People's Republic of China got rid of the emperor, it wasn't communist like what we know it today. It was more socialist. You know what I mean? That's why when the Squad and these progressive people talk about democratic socialism, there's no such thing. I mean, it winds up like what China is today.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to. Yeah, I talked about 1945 and 1949 when it became communist. And there's not one damn thing on here what it was before that.
Look up the last Emperor of China, I think is the name of the movie. But there has to be. I learned about it in school.
I know.
This is really scary what they're doing to our education.
Hey, like I said, I feel stupid that I didn't know.
I'm older than you.
So Jin Yuzhong, the Qing Dynasty Emperor of China, or Huangdi, was the monarch of China during the imperial. You know who's going to know this? My son, and he's at work. How dare he? They were Confucianism, replaced legalism as the official political theory, and succession theoretically followed Well, yeah, that didn't explain crap. Yeah, so it doesn't. I'll have to go over it, and then it could be another cool topic of everything. But let me finish up with this last of this because I got 30 more minutes. And you guys can talk. Where's Lorna, our slacker, by the way?
Probably sleeping.
I'm right here. I was about to say she's probably trying to fix her lawnmower.
Oh, God. That thing is so retarded. The way they put that thing together, I wish I would have looked at it better when I bought it. Oh, my God.
It's always 2020.
Okay, so I lost my little...
And I still got to mow the hill. I didn't get done.
So, in 1950...
Yeah?
In 1950, the People's Liberation Army, the Communist Chinese military, invaded and occupied Tibet. See, I didn't know that China occupies Tibet.
Yeah.
Prior to the invasion of South Korea by the North Koreans, two rivals had engaged in low-level cross-border conflicts before that. Let me see. Oh, another cool little map. So that's it. On that. So, how did the Korean War impact the world? It never really ended, but it had a huge impact on the Korean Peninsula as well as the world. So it divided families and broke hearts. After the war came to an end, North Korea and South Korea were left divided. Do you guys hear me speaking twice?
No.
Yes, I hear you echoing. That's why I have my microphone on mute.
Hold on, let me hang up and call back. I can't do. See, now it quit. Okay, so the DMZ not only divided the two Koreas, but also families. So if you had family that happened to live in North Korea and you lived in South Korea, that was it. You could no longer go and see them. There was no way to communicate with them. American rearmament. The Korean War led the Americans to a huge rearmament. Their defense budget shot up $48 billion in 1951 and then $60 billion by 1952. Who's going to pay for it? North Korea's two allies, Russia and China, during the war quarreled over who should pay for the war, which resulted in the tension between the two nations. In a modern world scenario, we have seen people taking North Korea and South Korea as two different political systems, two different sets of people, and a cement pavement separating them. However, the spirit of the Koreans on both sides is undeterred by these assumptions. What's left to be seen is how would these two adversaries, go to ensure the everlasting peace for their land. Okay, so basically, remember the two blue buildings that Trump walked between?
Yeah.
That's the DMZ.
Yes.
That's it.
And he's the first president to ever go there.
Yeah, it's the length of those buildings that's literally from one end of the peninsula to the other. That's it. And the only way to go in between, is that one little path. Wow. Okay. See, that's what I was wondering how big the DMZ was. That's all for for the Korean War. I mean, everything I found has all been the same, repeating. And I hate the fact that it doesn't talk about the different skirmishes and everything like that. So
well, there are books and stuff that do, but you're going to have to go somewhere else to find them. You know, not everything, I guess, made it to the internet, or maybe you need to know what libraries to go look at. Remember, we have discovered that, you know, big tech censors people, and, you know, like I said, a lot of that stuff I learned in school. So, and the books were available. My dad served in Korea. My dad was a radio man on the planes, the bombers, a bomber, something, bomber. Big, and so, I mean, I guess that's one reason why I got to learn, you know, more. But I'm telling you, there used to be books. Go to the Encyclopedia Britannica.
No, I went on World Atlas. I found it. There were 16 major battles of the Korean War. The first one was the Battle of Seoul, which I found that it was taken over 4 different times. It was an invasion of South Korea by North Korea at the start of the war. Let's see. They used a blitzkrieg-style invasion across the whole entire 38th parallel, and the South Korean troops could not counter the North Korean heavy artillery. During the fight, the bridge across the Han River was blown up by the South Korean troops, and what happened was that killed hundreds of their soldiers and refugees.
Was that the bridge over the River Kwai?
Hold on. Let me. And they took over. See, the North Korean troops were able to take over the capital. 3 days. Within 3 days of the war. That's sad. Okay. The Battle of the Imjin River was fought from April 22nd to April 25th in 1941. The Chinese troops attacked the UN base at the lower Imjin River to try and recapture Seoul. The United States territory where the battle took place was under the British forces, supported by the Belgian battalion. And the British forces managed to hold on to their position for 3 days, despite superiority of the Chinese troops. And the ferocity of the battle caught the attention of the world because of the fate of the regiment. The Battle of the Imjin River is significant in the history and tradition of British military. See, even during the Revolutionary War, man, the British can jack some shit up. And America actually lost a lot of those battles. Remember when we went over the Revolutionary War? We lost a lot of those battles. But the thing is, we won the important ones. Right. And that was the difference. So,
and the thing is, too, we stuck to it. We didn't give up. Yeah. Well, no, there was some of the Revolutionary War battles that we had that one of the generals just said, I'm done. And he left. Oh, yes, you're right. I remember. Yes. I remember learning about that now. Yes, right.
Operation Ripper was also known as the Fourth Battle of Seoul, and it was intended to destroy the Chinese People's Volunteer Army and the North Korean army that was around Seoul. Hongchong and Chungchong, I'm sorry if I'm butchering the other one, the operation was conceived by General Matthew Ridgway of the U.S. 8th Army under the UN military operations. Operation Ripper was launched on March 6th and was preceded by the largest artillery bombardment in the history of the Korean War. The troops managed to liberate Seoul for the fourth and last time on March 14th, while Hongchong and Chuncheon I'm sorry, guys, if I'm butchering your name, were liberated on March 15th and the 22nd, respectively. I'm sorry, but the first one's not that bad. But it's when you do the with a little and a unch and a, like a jalapeno. Yeah, I can't pronounce it, so I'm butchering it, and I'm sorry. I'm just going to call
I'll be honest. The majority of the knowledge I have from, like World War I, World War II, Korean, Vietnam. Well, no, not Vietnam, but the wars before Vietnam is through the movies. I mean, yes, we learned about it in school, but only a very minute. They had a lot of, back then, they made a lot of movies that were true.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, even though they were fictional movies, like the fighting Seabees, they were still
here's
true.
The thing. They normally they have some. Oh, and I just found this out. Okay, you know the dude. How many of you have seen? I'm trying to think of the guy. He's always a military general in every freaking movie he does. He's got the really, really white hair with the big mustache. Not Donald Sutherland, but the other guy. He did Falling Skies. He did every movie he does is military. Every single one.
I know who you're talking about.
Hold on. Let me look it up. And there's a reason why. This dude, he was a decorated Marine, actually. Hold on. And you're going to know who I'm talking about here in a second. Hold on. Where's the cat? Carrots and I'm 12. Huh?
Oh, I'm repotting my things, and I got some carrots, and carrots can go in a pot, but it has to be at least 12 inches deep.
Come on. My phone is so slow. Let's see, all of the cast. He was... I did not know that's who it was. Okay. Wow, I feel stupid. Something totally different. I thought one dude with an Asian name is black. Wow. I'm trying to find the general on here so you guys would know who I'm talking about. Oh,
I'm right here.
Dale Dye is his name. Okay. Now listen to his pedigree of stuff. Dale
what's his name?
Dale Dye, D-Y-E. Okay. He was born in 1944 in Cape Girardeau, Missouri. He graduated as a cadet officer from Missouri Military Academy, but there was no money for college. So he enlisted in the U.S. Marine Corps January of 1964. He served in Vietnam in 1965 and 67 through 70. He survived 31 major combat operations. He emerged from Southeast Asia with numerous decorations, including a Bronze Star for Valor, 3 Purple Heart medals for wounds suffered in combat. He spent 13 years as an enlisted Marine, rising to the rank of Master Sergeant. He was chosen to attend Officer Candidate School and was appointed Warrant Officer in 1976. He later converted his commission and he was a captain and was sent to Beirut with multinational peacekeeping force in 82 to 83. He served in a variety of assignments around the world and managed to graduate with a BA degree in English. And let's see, he spent time in Central America. Huh?
What got him into acting?
Oh, hold on. He spent time in Central America reporting, training troops in guerrilla warfare techniques in both El Salvador and Nicaragua before he left the training thing in 1985. And get this. He's like, oh, I'm done. Now I'm going to go to Hollywood. He's a founder and principal of Warriors, Inc., which provides technical advisory services to the entertainment industry. Now, this is what he has done. He did Mission Impossible. He did Platoon, and I have no idea who he was in Platoon. Casualties of War. I'm trying to think of who you would know. He did The Purge in 2014.
The what?
I'm trying to think of who. Hold on. I'm trying to see if anything. Medal of Honor. He did Alexander. There's a lot of these movies I have no idea, but you know who he is if you saw him. But just look him up, Dale Dye. This dude has done. He did Band of Brothers, Rules of Engagement, Medal of Honor, Mutiny.
I have to admit, except for 4th of July, I have not watched one Vietnam War movie. Not one.
He did Saving Private Ryan. I'm trying to. Oh, he did Under Siege. Remember Under Siege 2?
Oh, with
Steven Seagal. Okay,
yes.
You know when they're sitting. You know when all the generals from all the different branches, the admirals, are sitting there. He's the one dude with the rack. He's got the white hair and the that's him.
Oh, I know who you're. Oh, yes. Okay.
I'm thinking that this dude had to have done.
No.
Yeah, I was thinking he had to have done military because he's spot on with everything. But yeah, he does all of the. He does a lot of acting in all these movies, but he does a lot of to make sure. He's a historian, I guess you would say. And that's what, but you're right. A lot of the Vietnam movies, there's been a lot of them. But
yeah, but I can't watch them.
But that's another war which I don't understand. The Vietnam War movies are so popular, but everybody hates the Vietnam soldiers. Well, let me rephrase that. People back from who were adults, Jane Fonda and all of them, Raiders. Yeah, so people that age are the one that hate the Vietnam War. But anywho, let me get back to this. So Operation Ripper, it took them. Okay, hold on. The Battle of Old Baldy was a series of 5 battles for control of Hill 266, occurring over a period of several months. The battle was referred to as the Battle of Old Baldy because of the trees. Oh, because they destroyed the trees and there was nothing on the top. That's why they called it the Battle of Baldy. So UN troops managed to capture the outpost in a series of battles, with the last battle fought from March 23rd to the 26th of 1953. And the Battle of Baldy was the most costly to both sides. So there was more than 1,000. The Chinese lost more than 1,000, and the UN troops lost about 400. The Battle of Hill Erie was fought between the UN troops and communist forces in 1952 at the Hill Erie. The outpost was taken several times by both sides. Hill Erie was under the U.S. command by Captain Max Clark, and the Battle of Hill Erie was fought in 3 phases. So the first round was fought in March when the U.S. troops set out to take the hill, but they were overpowered by the Chinese army, withdrawing to the line of resistance. And then in May, the Philippine Battalion Combat Team engaged the Chinese. And so that's when the Chinese lost a lot of troops. And then the Chinese launched another attack and to recapture the hill. But the Filipino army brought an end to it. The Filipinos were like, nah, we're done. So, and they kept it. But the Chinese they're persistent little bastards. They don't quit. The Battle of Heartbreak Ridge. I did not know that movie was after the Korean War. That movie, The Battle of Heartbreak Ridge.
Yeah, isn't that the one Clint Eastwood's in?
Yep. I did not know. This is why I like doing this. I'm like, oh, damn, okay. So the Battle of Heartbreak Ridge was fought for more than a month in 1951 in the hills of North Korea. The attack began on September 13th in 51, progressed for 2 weeks when the American troops employing massive artillery barrage and airstrikes. The Americans halted the Heartbreak Ridge on September 27th and to reconsider their strategy. The American Army began their final assault on the Chinese Army on October 11th, and by the 15th...
I'm not sure. I could be wrong, but wasn't it the Korean War that Elvis Presley served in?
I don't know.
I know because I know he served, and I'm pretty sure it was the Korean War because it was before he became famous.
Yeah,
or it was like in the beginning.
So, in 4 days, the Americans and 25,000 Chinese troops were either killed or wounded. So that was a bloody battle. Operation Courageous was conducted by the U.S. Army to trap a large number of the Communist Army troops between the Han and the Imjin rivers. And the operation took place between the 23rd and 28th of March in 1951. Huh?
Yeah, they made a lot of movies about these different battles you're talking about.
Yeah, there was Operation Courageous, the Battle of Kapyong, or Kapyong.
Yep.
That was was fought between the UN forces from Australia and Canada, while the Chinese Communist Army. So, I guess because of so many different countries, each country, I guess, kind of did different battles. And if it wasn't one, they would go back with a different country. The Battle of Incheon, it resulted in both a victory and a change in the strategy for the United Nations. It involved 75,000 troops, and that's when they recaptured Seoul. Yeah. The Battle of Incheon was an amphibious invasion with the Incheon area being secured by the UN forces. The third Battle of Seoul, I guess they're going in order of not by date, but importance, because the biggest battle, because the third Battle of Seoul was, so it took place from December of 1950 until January of 51 around Seoul, Korea. And the Chinese Army attacked the Seoul Korean Army Infantry Division along the DMZ, and the U.S. 8th Army, commanded by General Matthew Ridgway, evacuated Seoul to prevent the Chinese Army from overwhelming them. See, sometimes, and that's why, so they have to pull back. You give it up, and then you just go fight to take it back. And that's what the Battle of Incheon was. So the Battle of the Hook took place on May 28, 1953, and the 29th of May. And it was fought between the North Korean and Chinese forces against UN forces who were backed by the British and the United States. So the hook refers to the shape of the ridge where the battle took place. It was a strange spot that both sides wanted to capture in the end, and the U.S. forces or the UN forces were able to keep their stronghold. And then there's the second Battle of Seoul, the Battle of the Chosin Reservoir, the Battle of Bloody Ridge. There's not much on it. There was 10,000 troops died at the Battle of Bloody Ridge, henceforth the name. But that was on both sides. The Battle of Osan was the first fight between North forces and South forces. The battle, which resulted in a victory for North Korea, was alarming to the United States, who realized how unprepared they were. They got caught with the pants down, and which is the reason why today, now I don't know about you, Bobby, but when you were a SEAL, but in the Army, and people wonder why we do this. It's you train and train and train and retrain. It's discipline, so you don't get caught with your pants down. It's not only trying to practice so you get better. It's
that muscle memory.
Yeah, pretty much. And that's what. Bobby, how did you guys do your training in the Navy?
It becomes second nature.
Yeah.
How did what?
Bobby, how did you guys do your training in the Navy?
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, like, did you do constant battle exercises? Or, I mean, I know you were a SEAL, but like I said, we would go out and we do our field training exercises.
Oh, yeah, we did.
And we would practice.
We did a lot with the Marines at Camp Pendleton and out on San Clemente Island, which is out in the middle of the bay in San Diego.
But just pretty much just redoing things over and over. Practice makes perfect, right?
Right.
Okay. Yeah, and people talk shit about why we practice all of these drills, even marching, right? It's, well, one, you want to be in uniform. At least this is how I know why the Army does it, because it's dress right dress, it's discipline, and all of that. If you have no discipline, you're not going to listen to your chain of command. That's why they have the chain of command. One, that's why they practice. That's why there's so much discipline, which is why I know for a fact our U.S. Army and possibly the Marines are going to go to shit, because there is because of how strict they are. And with the millennials and the Gen Z going in, well, if you could get a Gen Z off their ass long enough to want to, and see, that's just it. These two generations are so damn lazy. I've already talked to somebody, 21 years old. I have no intentions. I said, why? Because you're too damn lazy? Lack of discipline? He's like, I just don't have time for that. Oh, okay, your 21-year-old busy life. Plays games in his mommy's basement. But that's what people don't understand. Now, I know there's no, and I'm making light of this when I can. The Air Force, the Coast Guard, who else am I forgetting? I know I'm forgetting somebody. Well, the Navy, you guys have, I don't know how your training is, like the regular Navy, like Weathers and John and shit. It's not on the mainland. It's always on a boat that's out at sea. So their training is different. That's why I can't say anything about it. But two totally different monsters. But like I said, there's just too many lazy people, and now they want to get rid of
have you
certain.
seen those commercials?
The what?
There's a Russian commercial, and then they compare it to that cartoon American. The Army.
I don't even talk about it. It's a disgrace. Okay.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I saw the Chinese one, and then I saw the Russian one, and they had made some comments about how badass they look, and these were some young people. Because there are some young people that aren't woke, but I'm like, what do you mean they're badass? You should have seen the American military ads in like the 70s and 80s and the 90s. You want to talk about some sick ass, our Army of One commercial ads? That's what ours used to be. You know, the Russian and the Chinese didn't used to do recruitment advertisements. They didn't need to because everybody in Russia and China have to serve a minimum of 2 years. They don't need to recruit. What they made those commercials simply to shove it in the Americans' face.
Oh, please, have you seen the American commercial?
The cartoon?
My two mommies got married, and they made it a commercial, a cartoon. I'm like, seriously?
Yeah.
You're making a joke of, we don't care if you have two moms. We don't care. And it's like, I'm like, no pandering to these little bitch-ass little babies. I swear to God, I believe when I left basic in 2008, right after that, drill sergeants aren't allowed to get in the face of recruits. They're like, oh, Mommy, I got yelled at. So now they're not allowed to yell at the soldiers and basic training.
Yeah.
All right, Bobby, I got to go. It's 11:45.
All right.
I got to go pick up my son from work. So if you guys want to continue
very
talking.
Informative.
Sorry about the beginning. Like I said, I had to hunt high and low, and nothing had the different battles, and you know, which kind of sucks. But yeah, we finally found it. So next Saturday, if we can't find a survival show topic or anything like that, we'll go ahead and go with the next. Huh?
Well, I told you Thursday and Saturday, no show.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Well, okay, so for the next week, if we still can't come up with a survival whatever or anything like that, then we'll just continue on with the next military battle or the military war, which should be Vietnam. So, but yeah, that's what we'll do. So no show this Thursday and Saturday, right?
Right.
Okay, you just do, I guess it's a repeat of whatever.
Yeah.
It'll be fine. So that way people at least know we're still on. All righty, I'm going to go head out and go pick him up. And
all right, and
Have
I
a good
appreciate
night.
it. It was another good show.
Really enjoyed it.
And thank you,
guys can keep
Maria
talking.
and Lorna, for joining us.
I'm awake. Barely, but I'm awake.
God bless
like I
America.
said, if you guys want to keep talking, go ahead. You know,
nah,
for the next 15
there's
minutes.
nothing really. There's nothing really.
Oh, okay.
To discuss. So.
No, you did it. I really did enjoy it. It was very informative as usual. It's always nice. Now you got me thinking of those movies. I'm gonna go see if I can't find a couple of them.
All righty. Well, I'm gonna get out of here, and
All
we'll
right.
talk to you guys later.
Definitely. And like I said, God bless America. God bless our children, our troops, our veterans, first responders, and God bless the Defender 7. Good night, everybody.
Good night.